Welcome to Harmonizing. It's the musical part of the show.
Jump in here with you guys.
All answers will be sung.
Are these on? Cool. Should I split 2 and 2? You want me to jump over there?
Does this one
Boys
come out?
only.
Balance it out.
Do you want to
Here,
sit next
I'll
to
balance.
Do you want
it out.
to cuddle?
Oh, you want balance or what do you want to do?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
Not a problem. Nice to meet you.
Oh, hi. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hi. What's up?
What's up? So, harmonizing. So we think it's one of the most important factors in a successful influencer campaign. It's the harmonization between brands and influencers and their audience. So when it works, it can be an incredible thing. So today we're happy to talk about the DNA of what makes a good influencer deal and a brand piece of content. Today I have Justin Rezvani. He is the founder and CEO of theAmplify, which is an Instagram network. Lark Paul, who's Senior Director, Creative Program and Partnerships at Defy. Kong P, co-founder and CEO of Simple Pickup. And Christian DelGrosso, who's a filmmaker with 3.5 million Vine followers. Wow. Okay. So if we could, just introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you do.
Absolutely. I'm Justin Rezvani, CEO and founder of theAmplify. And actually, we've created a technology platform to not only be able to understand the audiences that follow influencers, but create scalable campaigns on Instagram. And we work with some of the largest brands in the world to create holistic campaigns across the platform, particularly on Instagram.
I'm Lark Paul. I work at Defy Media, and I have kind of the honor and the pleasure of running our partner program for digital creators. So it's my job and my team's job to identify amazing talent, emerging talent, and work with them to bring them into Defy's creator program and help them figure out their goals and obtain those goals. It can be through growing their channel, extending their footprint, marrying them with brands, bringing them into Defy programs, and just really helping them get to the next point in their career. And it's a really amazing job, and it's amazing to be connected with people like that.
Kong?
Hey, I'm Kong. I run a YouTube channel called Simple Pickup, and we have 1.6 million subscribers. We also have a subscription business on the side where we teach guys how to pick up girls. So I've actually been on both sides of the brand harmonizing. We've had brands come to us and done brand deals with them, and we've also had creators advertise for our subscription service as well.
I'm going to keep it simple. My name is Christian, and I'm a content creator on Vine.
Great. So let's start with a softball. What makes for a good piece of branded influencer content?
I think authenticity is the biggest thing. Early on, when we started theAmplify, the big thing we focused on was creating tools for the creators to create authentic content. And the biggest thing that we learned was when they create the content and distribute the content, it's something that's very meaningful, and the engagement is always through the roof. And what people don't realize is that's the type of content you want to distribute, not just a brand's message.
Mark?
I think we are bombarded by a ton of messaging and a ton of media. And I think it goes back to the core foundation of creating something that's funny or irreverent or sort of moves your heartstrings if it's something more serious, and spending time actually crafting the message and being creative in what you're putting together. All of us out here, our time is very valuable, and we can kind of pick and choose what we watch. And the things that really speak to us are going to speak to our peers and maybe millions of people throughout the world. So I think it's a lot of time spent on messaging and crafting the idea.
So Kong and Christian, what are some of the challenges you guys face when you are approached by a brand?
The biggest challenge that we faced before was that the brand, they hired a marketing company to come in and do the marketing for them. The marketing company set them up with us, and the marketing company had like these great ideas about how we can incorporate their message into our videos, and they were like, hey, do this, do this, do this. And so in the end, I straight up told the brand that you need to fire this marketing company. If they knew YouTube, they would be making viral videos right now. They wouldn't be marketing for you, right? So I think the hugest kind of hurdle is to get the brand to understand that this is our content. Like, we know what's best for our audience. It's not that we don't like your idea. It's just that that's not going to work on my channel. You know, that could work somewhere else. Who knows? That's just not going to work here.
Christian?
I'm going to second that, exactly what Kong said. I think the biggest thing would be creative freedom. It's hard, you know, working with brands sometimes they don't let you have that type of freedom where you can use your content that you're good at to showcase the brand. And I think that's one of the biggest problems.
So what are some tips you guys would have for brands before embarking on an influencer program? You know, what are some tips you'd give them going in?
I have two. So one is to first get the creator's idea, you know, maybe pitch a few ideas, get the creator to find an idea, and if you really don't like it, then maybe you can pitch yours, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. Like, don't force it. Number two is, I think you can go for the big fish and, you know, 1 million subscribers plus, or, you know, 3 million subscribers plus, but I look into going for a lot of smaller channels too, because they don't get a lot of brands. Like I'm sure, you know, Christian gets brands knocking on his door every single day, so he's going to be really picky on who he works with. Same with us. But if you go to someone with 100,000 subscribers, or, you know, instead of a 1 million subscribers, you go to someone with just 100,000 and do 10 of those, it's going to be really easier to deal with them, and it's going to be a lot easier to get them to actually do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually do the opposite of you, Kong. At the beginning, I like to pitch them something first. You know, I put something together, see if they enjoy it, and then 90% of the time, they're like, we love it, do it. And then if they have any, you know, they want to revise it a little bit, they can revise it, of course, and it's pretty smooth.
I think that the big thing that we use a little bit differently is that we're pitching the ideas from the inception of whatever the product is. So we're not coming in just as an influencer network or a data-driven network. We're a full-service Instagram agency. So from the beginning, we're pitching the concepts in terms of strategy, distribution, and we understand what our influencers want to post. I mean, I was just talking to some creators yesterday, and they're like, we love that idea. You know what we like to post, and now we're posting that content for brands. So it's from the inception of, if it's a film or it's a product, all the way through the distribution and analytics, we're taking care of all of it. And that's why we know it's going to be good content.
I think we also have a responsibility to be sort of a liaison to the brands. If you're putting together a talent list, or if you're putting together sort of brands or destinations for an agency or a brand to review, we need to take the leadership and walk them through what each person does and why each person might be a good fit, or sort of a collaborative approach. In a perfect world, we'd love for brands and agencies to do their homework. Sometimes it doesn't always happen. So getting in a room and kind of reviewing and understanding what is important or authentic, as you said, to the creator, and helping them sort of get their head around that, it's a great way to sort of connect and take the campaign to the next level.
So what are some things that you guys can do to ensure that that connection stays organic? Because obviously, you know, the relationship to your audience is the most important factor here. It's why you guys are attractive to marketers. So how do you make sure that that content stays organic to your audience?
Usually the way we do it is we think of an idea that we would have done anyway without the brand. So the way we pitch brands our ideas is, or the way we brainstorm it is, okay, so what's some good ideas for this brand? Now, which of those ideas would we do anyway if the brand wasn't even there? So that's really how we come to the table and brainstorm about what we can do to still engage our audience in the same way, but also make the brand happy as well.
I think what we use is technology, to be really honest. We know a few things. We know that brands don't come into us and say, I want to use an influencer that's 25 years old. They tell us that we want to reach an audience, males 18 to 34, that have this exact affinity. So what we do is we use our technology to find out who are the perfect influencers. And then we use technology again to give our influencers creative briefs to go ahead and create that content. And then we use more technology to let them review that content. And then we use even more technology to distribute that at scale, and then look at the analytics behind it. So we're looking at two things. We're looking at data, and we're looking at really creative concepts, and then we're looking at who are the people these brands actually want to reach. Because I think that's the most important thing, and I think that's the discussion that we should all be having is, it's not just about you as an influencer. We respect you so much as influencers, but who are you exactly reaching? And I think that's the most important thing that we're trying to solve as a brand and as a company is, who are those people that they're reaching at scale?
No, for sure. I definitely agree, 100%. Kong, you keep speaking for me, so I think you need to settle down a little bit here.
Sorry.
But I agree with him 100% too as well. Gotta try to put this in words here. I agree with exactly what you said last time. I think that was like literally what I was gonna say.
Thanks, man.
That could be your new Vine.
That could be a new Vine.
Do you want to make a Vine while you're here?
Hold on one sec.
And now all we need is a brand.
Yeah. Any hands? Who wants to pay for this?
$10,000. Aren't we all our own brands? Are we all our own brands up here?
True.
So, Lark, when you're sort of orchestrating these, do brands come to you, or do you reach out to brands? How does it work for your partnership programs?
Sure. So Defy is an amazing media company, and we run in both directions. Oftentimes, deals will come to us, or oftentimes we'll package something and take it to market. So in any one of those scenarios, we're always thinking about often the things that have been discussed up here. What is the brand or agency's or product's goals? Who are they trying to reach? What type of message are they looking for? So that we can either match them to owned and operated brands within Defy or partners within our partner program. But the most important thing to keep in mind is, what is the goal? How do we achieve this? How do we be creative? How do we have fun? How do we make everybody feel like they're contributing to getting a message to the next step, or to really map to the goals of the brand campaign?
Cool. So there's so many distribution platforms now between YouTube and Twitch and Vine and Instagram and Snapchat. How do you guys decide which you want to go for and where you want to build audiences? Do you want to continue to do it everywhere, or do you want to focus in on one thing? And where do you feel like is the best place for branded content?
I'm gonna go before Kong this time.
Good call.
I like to try and build audiences on every single platform, as many as I can, actually. I just started on Snapchat last week because I realized how, like you were saying about technology, they have everything. They have the API, they have the views, you can see exactly how many people are viewing it, screenshots, etc. So I just started, I think, 6 days ago, and I already have 400,000 viewers on that. But yeah, I think growing it on every platform, as many as you can, would generate a larger audience across the board.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's not even just platforms, to increase engagement with your fans, but it's also using other forms of other platforms that might not be digital media in the sense that we're talking about today. So, like for us, we have an email list. You might think that's ancient, but we've done some really cool things with that email list. I know a lot of people have they're going into Snapchat now. There's also some people I know have like a subscription kind of platform where they do live streams. So I think the more platforms you're on, the more ways you can engage with your audience, the better. Because a lot of people, they don't want to watch a 5-minute YouTube video. Some people want to watch just 7 seconds of Vine. Or some people only read their email.
6 seconds, Con.
6 seconds. Some people read their email every single day, and that's the best way to get them. So I think the more platforms, the better.
Do you guys feel like brands are utilizing all those platforms? When you're approached, do they come with the ideas of how to use Vine and Instagram and everything, or is that up to you guys to sort of bring that to them?
For me, at least, they always come to the YouTube because that's our biggest. But we always pitch them, hey, look, we got a huge email list. We have Instagram. That's not that big. But we also have a second channel on YouTube as well. And then also our website, our subscription service that people are very, very dedicated to kind of our content. So yeah, I always pitch it to them, but they always come with the biggest in mind.
It's also about being strategic, too. I mean, we have the biggest challenge in that our core audience members kind of enter the digital space from wherever they want to. Some people love Vine and are only kind of looking at things through Vine and Twitter, and they're ignoring the rest. But our job is really challenging because we have to put amazing content essentially on every platform and figure out what the appropriate version of that content is per platform so it actually makes a difference. It's challenging, but it's also, I think, creatively rewarding to kind of take on that challenge.
I think for us, Instagram is our #1 focus. respectfully, the reason we haven't actually gone to other platforms is because of the lack of data. I think the big thing that marketers really want is truthful, insightful data about the audiences that they're reaching. Unfortunately, platforms like Vine, platforms like Snapchat currently don't have open APIs to have access to actually understanding who are the people that you're reaching on an audience level. Who are those exact individuals? Fortunately, Instagram has a wonderful open API, and the fact that we can use our technology on top of that API gives us that understanding of the data. Because for us, what's important is actually to give back to the information, what's a viewable impression to a marketer? Not just a follower. It's not the number of followers that matter. It's the number of viewable impressions that you're actually getting on Instagram. And that's what we're using. We're using API data to analyze those audiences and understand that. And we, as a business, have chosen to go to channels that actually have that data that's open and that's available, not just because it's sexy, because you want to have that data to back everything up.
You know what's a good strategy to do, too, is if you're a brand and you want to put your brand on a YouTube video or a Vine, have them tweet out that video or that Vine, have them put it on their Facebook and even Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, because that takes no more work on my end. I just put a link and go, hey, check out my new video. So that's promoting for me as well as for your brand as well.
I was just going to say that, Kong, ironically. I agree 100% that there is less data, of course, on Vine and the other platforms, but I do encourage brands to really check out Vine. They did release the loop count recently, which is basically a view count. Shows how many times the Vine has gone through. And like for an example, like on my end or the top Viners ends, we average between 8 million to 15 million loops. I usually do 10 million loops within the first 24 hours. But I think that it's definitely something to work with. There's definitely people that you should look out for, because there's the whole like revine for revine thing where people are publicizing themselves. It's like you're forcing content on their followers. But if you look at the top Viners, the guys that have like a foundation, very organic content, they're getting crazy likes, engagement, views, and it's definitely people to work with.
We also like to look at the qualitative versus the quantitative, and I think we're talking about both in these discussions, and they're both important. But it's interesting, as Kong, as you were saying, that's definitely kind of a methodology as far as sort of getting, if the YouTube video is like your primary destination, and you just want to make sure that it's getting to other platforms, what you suggested, awesome. It definitely, you can see how that can be very successful. But there's also kind of the qualitative side. If there's an amazing article written about the campaign in like the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or any other industry-facing media that we're all reading, and it's kind of highlighting some really interesting things, that's also a win for the brand and I think everyone involved, because the audience reading those publications, they're not necessarily coming to YouTube and watching the videos or interacting with Instagram, but they're being turned on to that. So we like to look at both of those things.
Cool. So in moving on to data a little bit, how important is analytics in some of the brand deals you guys have done to the marketers?
I think it's the number one and most important thing. I think one thing that's interesting that brought us into this business so quickly, I mean, our company, for example, launched January of this year. We've been working with probably every brand on the West Coast, and we've been probably running most of the largest Instagram campaigns on that. And I think the data is what's been driving us as the lead in terms of creating these massive scale influencer marketing campaigns. We're working with some of the top Viners, all of his best friends we work with on campaigns all the time. And the thing is that data is what's driving the fact that companies want to work with us, because a lot of people can't provide an impression count on Instagram. A lot of people can't provide a real-time dashboard. A lot of people can't provide sentiment analysis against particular pieces of content that influencers are posting. And I think that's what's driving brands to continuously to come and work with us and also work with talent in a larger way.
Yeah, I mean, data is absolutely important. Everybody wants to understand what is the ROI. If I've spent X amount of money, well, what am I getting for that? Am I getting people following through on the calls to action? Am I getting X amount of views or X amount of engagements? But again, we also think that there's an interesting qualitative angle, and it's let's actually look at some of the comments. Let's look at people that are actually talking about ways that this piece of content might have changed their outlook or the way that they feel about themselves. And it's as much as pulling the numbers is absolutely important and sending those back to the brand or their campaign, we do like to focus on the qualitative aspect as well.
So what are the key metrics for you guys when you're doing a brand deal? And do they align with what the brands are asking for?
Yeah, so they usually exceed what the brands are asking for, especially when the brands let us do kind of like our thing, you know, and then plug them in our way. But for us, I'll speak in two ways. One is as a creator, one is as a brand ourselves. We want to know how much is converting. You know, we want to know what our ROI is. Like if I spend $5,000 to have this guy shout out my subscription service, how much money am I getting, you know, lifetime for all the people that come in? So it's super important. On the creator side, I also want to know how many clicks did this brand get and how many sales did they get. Sometimes they don't tell me, but I want to know how many sales they got too, because if they got a ton of sales, then sounds bad, but I'm going to charge more for future brands when I work with them later. Or if it's less than expected, then I'll charge less.
I actually like to make strong relationships with the brands. My biggest thing is I want the brand to do well. I'll create content for them, and even after I've done my campaign, I will still, you know, give them an extra tweet, an Instagram, whatever the case is, because I do want them to be like, you know what, Christian killed it for us. Let's use him again, and we can use him again, and there's a relationship thereafter, and then that could build future relationships with other brands.
So what do you guys think is the most important metric for measuring success?
Well, for us, it really depends on the campaign. I mean, we're running things from SMS opt-in text messaging campaigns to actually conversion-based campaigns to sales-based campaigns to actually, you know, driving people to go see a movie. One thing that was really important to us is we ran a campaign a few weeks ago for a huge blockbuster film, and we're actually running now not only analysis within our target, but actually third-party data analysis on our campaigns. And what was really interesting is that we found out that our specific campaign, our Instagram campaign, the users that we hit, we actually saw a 27% increase in purchase intent of tickets for that film. And that's something that we're, you know, going to be sharing in the next few weeks in terms of data. So that's a big metric that we're looking at, is most of our theatrical films moving forward are going to have a third-party analysis metric to it, and actually looking at the audience that we were trying to reach on Instagram, are we increasing the ROI, and actually people are going to go see this film. Besides that, obviously, engagements and obviously viewable impressions against that particular target audience. Because when it comes to films, you know, tracking's a big thing. I don't know if there's theatrical folks in the room, but Tuesday morning tracking are always the things that you're looking for. How do you increase, you know, awareness within that Tuesday morning towards that target? So it really, you know, runs the gamut of those different things.
Lark?
Most of those principles apply to us as well. And then you kind of figure out with the brand or campaign or marketer what kind of their core goals are, so that you can report back on those. But again, we love this idea of kind of picking out really interesting engagements, whether it's comments, whether it's shares plus another activity. It's really digging deeper. You can provide that top layer of, this is X amount of views, X amount of shares. This is the number of people that followed through on the call to action. You can measure the hashtags or the retweets. All of those are sort of numbers on a piece of paper, and they absolutely have meaning. But we love the ability to dive a little deeper and see, did this actually make an impact on somebody? Has this influenced somebody to actually go and create content that sort of aligns with this brand or campaign, or take something and do something creative with it? And it's a little harder to get that, but we like to spend the time to deliver that.
So Kong, or Christian, I'll start with you.
Yeah,
no, I have a question. So, you know, when a piece of content is being made, if you're working with a brand, if they sort of push too much brand in there, it can feel inorganic to your audience. But at the same time, if the creators are, you know, if they're pushing it too far off brand, it can also damage the brand. So who really holds the power there? Like, how do you, what's the fine balance there? How do you ensure that both parties are happy?
I mean, for me, I do get a lot of branded deals that come in, and I do filter out the ones that, you know, may give me a little bit more creative freedom than others. But at the same time, it's a branded post. You know what I mean? I like to make it as organic and creative as possible, but I also don't want the brand to feel like, you know, we're paying you and it's barely a branded post for us. You know what I mean? Like they're like, and, you know, and they start to have doubts about the engagement and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that I hold the power, but I do also work with them as much as I can. I don't just, you know, be like, no, this is how it's gonna be.
I think ultimately the creator is the one to hold is the one who holds the power. I think you know you'll find a lot of creators will be like Christian and I, where we want the brand to succeed. Like we want them to feel good about this deal, but at the end of the day, I'll tell you a really funny story. There was this a close friend of mine who has over 5 million subscribers on YouTube. Gets like millions of views every single video. He had a brand deal that was $100,000. They made him do a specific video that he didn't want to do. They filmed it, spent 2 days doing it. Their people edited it, sent it to him, and at the end he said, nope, throw it out. I'm not putting it on my channel for $100,000. And I mean, that just kind of shows you how passionate creators are about their content. You know, like you can't just push something on them because they're just going to throw it out the window.
No, for sure. I definitely wouldn't let somebody create content for me and then put it on my page. I would never do that. I don't care what the amount of money it was.
Do you guys ever do stuff on branded channels? Is that
like what?
Like you'd appear on a you know, on Tide's YouTube channel or something?
I think a lot of big brands don't want to work with us because we're really like R-rated in our humor. So maybe Christian would be a better one to ask about this.
They, yeah, no, Vine is filled. They have the Coca-Cola channel, the Ford channel. They have a ton of channels that they have you put your content on their channel, and then we would refine it to share it with our followers. I don't really see too much wrong with it. I mean, I feel that if it's on the creator's page, it will definitely do a lot better, because if it's on Ford's page and we refine it, right away the people look at the post and they're saying, oh, this is a branded post. And that completely shies them away from it. They'll just scroll past it. But if it's on our channel.
We like the idea of giving kind of opportunities, though, with some of our creators. We will marry them with brands, and the content will live on one of our own sites, like break.com. And it's a phenomenal opportunity to kind of turn a new audience onto the creator if that audience wouldn't discover them on their own. So we like to kind of look at various options and figure out what will work best for everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we have actually turned away multiple deals that like there's a brand that I know of that we've worked with as a studio, and they the movie came out, I think, just about three and a half weeks ago, and basically they came to us and said, okay, this is our 300 by 250. We want you to post it on your influencers' profiles. The movie comes out 4th of July, and this is what it is. Do you want the money or do you not? And we don't believe in that. I mean, at the core belief of our company, we believe the most powerful type of marketing comes from people like yourselves. And we don't believe that a 300 by 250 ad actually works. So we've denied massive brand deals because that's not what we believe. That's not what we believe is right. But you know, there are companies that will do that, and there are creators that will post that. But unfortunately, you know, we don't have those people in our network, and that's kind of what we believe as a company.
So moving on, how important is collaboration to you guys? Do you think that brands are taking advantage enough of the sort of collaborative nature of YouTube and Vine and all these different channels?
You mean collabing with other influencers?
Yeah, like should brands be looking at not only you, but you know what else is going on, and can you work with other channels?
Yeah, for sure. When Vine first came out, I tried to be as self-sufficient as possible. I wanted to have a name for myself before I had a name like, you know, all he does is collab with people to help him grow. So I made myself a name, and then now, to keep us growing, you know, at 15,000 followers a day plus, we collab, and you know, and I think that collabing, you create even funnier content sometimes when you clash ideas and stuff. Like me and Zach have collabed way back when we were a lot smaller, but it definitely does help out.
So do you think that the brand should be coming to you asking for ideas like that? Because I'm curious how they navigate all that, and you know, if you look at it, there's all these MCNs, and there's, you know, how do you find who would be appropriate with who? Should they be looking to you guys for advice in that?
We actually did do branded deals, me and 5 of the top Viners, and we did a campaign, and they didn't want 1 or 2 or 3 of us, they wanted like all 5 of us. So they knew that we were all close friends and that we Vine together a lot and our engagement is crazy, so like, yeah, we want you 5. They give us a lot of freedom too, and we did a good campaign for them.
Does the whole like MCN model affect anything like that generally? You
We
guys work across all of
recently
them?
worked on a fantastic campaign for Playtex, and it was sort of the theme of it was to really empower young women to kind of challenge themselves, and there were various challenges handed off, and we worked with influencers outside of Defy, and it was really fantastically successful. I think Playtex was really happy, and all the influencers loved the idea of kind of challenging their audience and sort of doing this handoff. I mean, we're all friends at some level, even though we work for competing companies. But if it comes down to finding a real creative way to make a brand or a campaign come together, then we can move any kind of competitive nature aside and bring a great group of creative people together and let them do what they do best, which is be creative, produce and direct their content, and really kill it for the brand.
So in the scope of a bigger campaign, you know, when brands are they have their above line television or they have their social media, what's the right time to bring in influencer content? Is it at the beginning to sort of spark conversation, or is it at the end once they sort of, you know, hit saturation point?
I think for us, we're looking at this thing in a 360 approach. I mean, for us, we come in and say, this needs to be a channel you need to pay attention to because there's 200 million people on it, 100 million people use it a day, 439 minutes per month are using just on Instagram, the millennial audience that we're targeting. So we're looking at it as an interesting approach, but it depends on the brand. Theatrical releases, what we're coming in and saying is that we should be in on a 3-phase approach, similar to your regular marketing strategy, 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 2 weeks out, and opening weekend. So we're coming in and saying we can amplify, you know, no pun intended, but everything involved with that particular marketing strategy. With products, it can differentiate, but it just really, really depends on the brand, and it really depends on the strategy. But we think that influencers, and particularly influencers at scale, because we work on a scale perspective, is that it can apply to any form of actual blasts, and that works with any marketing strategy.
Lark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that I would agree with that. I mean, we try to set up campaigns that kind of ebb and flow. If you're doing something theatrical or if you're kicking off a new product, you obviously really want to get a groundswell at the beginning, but you have to be very careful that it doesn't trail off too quickly. So you have to be creative about kind of the timeline and the project plan that you put together, or sort of the production plan for how that content rolls out. You want to keep the attention of your audience. You want to keep challenging them. You want to keep putting creative things in front of them. I mean, no product or even movie release for that matter should die, especially because with movies, sometimes you can get them immediately on iTunes, home entertainment. You want them to be excited about that next option. It's not how many people can we get to the theater in opening weekend. There's a lifeline, and we're very sort of attentive to what that lifeline is.
I respectfully disagree with that because honestly, I think that you would be right in a traditional marketing sense, but we're talking about social media. And social media is about relevancy, and it's about real time, and it's about things that I care about right now, not what I'm going to care about in a week. And from our client's perspective, it's about creating that blast strategy and caring for that moment right now. And for all the clients that we work with, that's what we always pitch, is this incredible blast, take over the conversation, and then let another brand take over. If that's what they have to do, that's what they have to do. But you're owning that moment, and that's what it is. I think social is about that moment that you can create. And that moment is really what establishes you as a brand, because for that moment, you're the thing that everybody cares about. And that's what the relevancy of social media is to us.
And we like to keep sort of creating something new around that campaign at various points in time. It's just sort of two different approaches. Mm-hmm. Both have made our respective clients very happy because they keep coming back to both of us, but two different ways to solve the same problem.
How much lead time do you guys typically need for a campaign or for a piece of content?
We did our last one. We literally did it in like less than a week. So
they contacted you, and a week later you had your content up?
Well, it was more like we got on they've been emailing back and forth, do we want to do it, what are the terms? But once we agreed on that, we got on the phone, said, hey, this is what we're doing, is that cool? He said, yep, cool, done. And it was done within less than a week.
How about orchestrating the bigger ones? Is that more lead time necessary?
I mean, it depends on if you're doing like a full-scale production and you need, 100 people on crew, it's a little harder to pull that off right away.
Ours we shoot in like 2 hours and we're done.
But at the same time, we're very flexible and malleable and try to use all the best practices that we can. I mean, it's difficult sometimes. Like, if you looked at it from the kind of kickoff, like you go through sort of negotiation, you get all the paperwork in place. I think it depends on if you're trying to do a full-scale integration for Ubisoft, and again, you need 100 people on set, or if it's kind of a smaller production, you have a smaller crew, you can pull it off, edit it, done in 5 days.
I mean, for us, it's, again, I think I'm going to come back to the technology piece. What's beautiful about what we've done in terms of our network and our technology is that we're actually available to our influencers on the most intimate device in their life, and that's their mobile phone. So we have a mobile application that all of our influencers have all around the world. And what happens is, for a particular campaign, if we have a notification from a client, hey, I want to run tomorrow, the beautiful thing is we go on our server, we send a little message to all of our wonderful influencers. They have directions. What do they need to create? We can get a campaign up in 72 hours if that's what we need to do. And that's the beautiful thing, is that we took this whole approach of influencer marketing and made it human. At the end of the day, everybody has a computer dashboard. Everybody has these things that are awesome. But the key is that we live on our mobile devices. We live on these things every single day. Shouldn't that be the channel that we're engaging these content creators with? And that's the approach that we took, and that's the reason we can get massive campaigns up and running in 72 or 36 hours.
So we'll end with, do you guys have any examples or thoughts on some epic failures in this space, or huge successes that you've personally worked on or seen?
Yeah, we have both. I think in terms of, let's not say, there's nothing a failure, it's just a learning experience, I think. So, I mean, we were doing a brand deal this month, and I think what we learned was we were targeting the correct audience that we were looking to target on a broad perspective in terms of, females 25 to 49. But what we were missing is the component of actually, do these people care about what we're talking about? What we learned in the campaign is that after our first 2 blasts, we wanted to shift the strategy, and that worked really well for us. And after we ended the campaign and concluded on a really, really high note. So there's a learning process in terms of knowing the influencer as well as the audience. I think one of the biggest successes was a theatrical campaign we ran a few weeks ago. Very, very interesting numbers. We broke 1 million engagements on Instagram in 36 hours. So 1 million likes and comments. That was the same theatrical film that we had a 27% increase in purchase intent for the tickets, and it's actually grossed, I think, $150 million within a few weeks. So it's an incredible film, and I think that really lends itself to what we did. We took a journey with the characters of the film and our influencers, and they took a 3-day journey leading up to the film, ending up at the theater. And what was incredible is, in terms of the sentiment, we measure sentiment in all of our campaigns. 16% of the conversation on our influencer posts were saying, I can't wait to go see, I'm interested to go see, I really want to go see this film. And when you talk about purchase intent in terms of what we talk about as brands, that's a definitive point that we're looking at. So 1 million engagements in 36 hours, 16% of the conversation is interested in going to see the film, and 27% increase in actually looking at, I'm going to purchase a ticket to buy this movie before and after our campaign. So I think that's some of the successes that we've seen so far.
Lark?
I think for failures or challenges, it's kind of the same topic or theme that we've all been talking about, is that if you're working with a brand or agency or whoever's kind of owning that campaign, and they're just a little too dictatorial in kind of their requirements, and they can't get past that, and they can't let the creator do what the creator naturally does, then you really can't move forward, because no one is going to be happy with how that campaign is going to progress. So it's always just trying to figure out how to jump over that hurdle and get each party to understand that the creator knows their audience best, and they're going to have some ideas, and they're still going to hit your beats, but you can't have total control that will drive the campaign to not be successful or kind of squash that creativity. And then one of the favorite campaigns that I've been involved with, and I actually wrote about this for the newsletter, was our partnership with Coca-Cola. That campaign was amazing because we worked with YouTuber Kurt Schneider, who's a member of our partner program, and we were able to feature clips of his video actually during American Idol commercial breaks on television for people that might have not discovered Kurt on their own. And that was just an incredible opportunity to bring a really talented YouTuber, surface him to television, and turn people onto him that might not have discovered them on their own.
Cool. Yes.
I'd say my biggest success was it also comes down to one tip that I always like to give people, which is don't be afraid to put your name on risky product or on risky content. Risky meaning like swear words and whatever. Because unless you're like selling children's toys, then maybe not. But a lot of people, like the last company we worked with, they make affordable suits for men. They wanted to do a brand deal with us, and we called them. I literally said, we're interviewing girls on Hollywood Boulevard about sex toys, right? And they're like, sure, do it. And we put that video out, and it got them a ton of sales, like way more than they paid for, or way more than they paid us for. So, I think the thing that they learned in that is, they kind of already knew it, but the more polarizing content is in any different direction, whether that's being vulgar or whether that's being cute or sad or whatever, it's going to engage the audience more. And I don't think that's something that you should ignore just because you might think, oh, because he's swearing or talking about this subject, it's going to hurt my brand.
Yeah.
Take us home.
I actually have done probably, I want to say like 50 plus promotional or branded deals per se in the last 8 months since I've been on Vine, and I haven't had anything gone wrong. Everything flows pretty well, and those brands have used me another 5 to 10 times more. So, I think that's success for me. Success for me is building a relationship with the brand.
Cool. Any questions? Anyone hungry?
Starving.
I think no, I can't see. Yes?
I think it's for you.
I'm sorry, I'm like 95% deaf. I was just trying to listen. Can you just repeat that?
I can kind of rephrase it
Okay, cool.
and tell me if I'm wrong, but what has Vine done to incentivize you in terms of money? Is that what it is?
Yes, to be a creator on their platform, because obviously YouTube has done a lot for creators in terms of building studios and fantastic facilities, and potentially their rev share type of program for the content creators in their ecosystem. So what have the other platforms done for you guys, and talk about the benefits of using the other platforms like Snapchat?
Oh, okay, I got you. So like I said before, I like building up all the platforms. I use them all. I actually do use them all. They're all intertwined now, especially Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Those three I post on regularly, and I also use them to push my Vine account. So my growth, because of those three that I've built up, has gone up, I would say, like 80%. I do spend, literally like 24 hours. I wake up, I'm on my phone. I'm always, making sure that they're all connected and shouting them out and stuff. But yeah, no, I definitely think that all three of them have helped with Vine.
Question for you. So in working with brands, have you found that they're increasingly coming to you for advice and open to what you're pitching to them? Because it used to be that brands were very, very strict about what they wanted, how they wanted the content
Exactly.
to come out. But do you find that they're becoming more lenient and understanding?
Yeah, it's actually funny because a couple of the brands that I'm working with, I'm actually really close with. They're like the CEOs. So like even if they're not doing campaigns with me, they'll be like, hey, we're working with this person. They want to do this. What do you think we should do? And like they're actually like asking me for advice on other campaigns. So yeah, no, they come to me for like a lot of stuff.
Anyone else? I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Harmonizing. Lovely.